Thank you, Lara. Um, Steve R, an alcoholic, told you that part already. Thanks, Paul. It's so great to see you here. So great to hear you speak. Um, it's a gift, right? It is. I'm looking forward to working with you because I want to learn some things, right? Because we always learn stuff about us, no matter who we work with, right? When we read this literature, it's like reading a big book again for the first time, right? You just never know what you're going to hear when you hear it. My spiritual condition is going to give me the message out of the book today that I may not have got yesterday. So I'm really grateful for that. My sobriety date is January 19th, 1991. So I'm going to tell you about December 1990. Because I can tell you honestly, at this moment right now, in December 1990, without even thinking about it, I am out of my mind drunk. I am out of my mind insane. That's just a given. That's just who I was at the very end of my drinking career. At the beginning of this month, I thought I had the flu. So I drank tequila and I took a hot bath because that's what I was told to do. And come to find out, as I was laying on the couch after that hot bath and that tequila, I was laying there sweating like crazy, but I had no perspiration coming out of my arms. All I had was this white powder that was coming off my arms and off my body. And what I had done is I had dehydrated myself so bad that my body had nothing else to give. So it was it was pushing salt out of my skin. And I didn't really see that as a problem. I thought it was something I didn't need anyway, so I could just wipe that shit off and keep going, right? Anyway, that's how insane I was. That night I ended up in treatment. Or not treatment, in a detox down on Minor, I think it's 14th and Minor or something like that. And at that time, I was such a good alcoholic that I sat in there for, they told me I was in there for a mandatory 24-hour stay. And I went in there and I had one of those sandwiches. Now, I don't know what was in it. There was some kind of something in that sandwich. It was like a miracle sandwich. And I ate that sandwich and I felt so much better. And I hooked up with this guy that I was sitting with. And he was telling me, yeah, I've been here for 24 hours. I'm getting ready to get out. And so I made a new friend. And then his family comes in and they start talking to him. They're all congratulating, a big old crowd. And when they left, I left. Because I was a friend of the family. And literally, if you walk out of 14th and Minor and you walk to the bottom of the hill, there's a tavern right there. And that's where I went. And I didn't have any money because I didn't have anything. And I walked in there and they see me and they said, you need a beer. And so I got a beer and I called my buddy who hadn't even made it home yet from dropping me off to come back and get me. Anyway, that's 1990, December. 2 weeks after that, in December of 1990, we had the big snowfall, if you remember that, Christmas. And I had this Oldsmobile Delta 98, had Positrack rear end, and I'm from Eastern Washington. I've been driving in the snow all my life. I could do it without a Positrack rear end, right? But I put chains on this thing, and this thing was like a bulldozer going down through the road. And we had a couple buddies that was working down here at the post office. And they were stranded at the post office because all the buses stopped running. It was, the city was shut down. And I'm driving down there, and I have been drinking all day. I mean, literally since that morning, I had been drinking. I mean, bottles of tequila, shots, beer all day. We were up here at some tavern up on International Boulevard, Old 99 at the time. Anyway, they called me and they said, we can't get home. Can you come and get us? Yeah, no problem. I'm a great driver when I'm drunk. So I drove down there and I made it. And it was weird because I'm driving down the road and I'm watching cars sliding off the road, buses sliding off the road, and I'm just plowing right through there. And I made it down there. And I parked at Denny's parking lot down here in 4th. And I was early because I was such a good driver. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, well, you know, it's cold. It's snowing like crazy. I've been drinking all day. I think I'll just sit here for a minute and wait for Marvin to show up. And I passed out. And the cops came. But I didn't know they were cops. They pulled me out of the car. I thought it was Marvin. I thought he wanted to wrestle in the snow. And so I wrestled with him in the snow until his coat fell open and I seen his badge. And so I helped him up and I brushed him off. Of course, you know, I've realized I have really screwed up now. And anyway, long story short, they didn't let me off. They didn't let me go home all by myself. They gave me a ride to the police station, and my older brother came down and took care of me. But anyway, that was what got me here. I mean, is that all? Oh, hell no. I'm a type 5 alcoholic, as you read it in our book. I'm outright mental defective, in full flight from reality, and maladjusted to life, just like it says in the book. And I only know that because I got this book to read. I've been to meetings, and I have this to work with. And I had a sponsor, my very first sponsor, because I tend to lean towards the wild side of things. I had to get a good sponsor that was named Wild Bill, which would make sense, right? He was crazy. I mean, I really picked a good one. And but the guy was all programmed. He knew what to do, and he got me going in this book. And he had me tricked into the idea that I was 12-stepping guys when I first sobered up, because I was picking them up and I was taking them to meetings. He goes, yeah, you should be taking these guys to meetings because you got this. I had a car, is what it turned out to be. And he was sponsoring them, but I had the car and I was 12-stepping him. You know, it takes what it takes. I needed that. I needed to know that I could get to a meeting, and these guys turned out to be friends. Unfortunately, none of those guys are around anymore. They've all passed on. And that's what happens when you stick around here long enough. Or not long enough, but you stick around here for a while, you get to see people come and go and not come back. And I'm an older guy, and I'm starting to feel the older, right? But I am so grateful. You know, I want to tell you that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a lease on life that I never knew was available. So when I got to do the 12-step stuff, I thought I had really arrived, but you know, it was really when I seen him do that as an example, right? He was the one that I seen him work with guys constantly. We always had people in the house, and these are just the things that I needed. I needed to be around all these crazy guys. I needed to walk into Serenity Hall. Was my very first meeting. And when I walked through the door, there was a guy named Don Ritter sitting there. And I walked in there and he was sitting here, and Two Gone John was sitting here, and Drop Dead Fred was over there. And I walked in and I just realized that these guys are me. And they didn't have anything on me. I mean, we were the same. And Don told me that I had missed the meeting and that they were just having a meeting by themselves. Now, I want to let you know that I parked my dad on the sidewalk right outside the door because this is my very first AA meeting I had ever been to, ever. Didn't even know what AA was. So I parked him out on the sidewalk there, and I said, Dad, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, you got to come in and get me. Because that means they've got their claws in me, and for sure they're gonna try to convert me or something, you know. So, but I walked in there and Don says, I'm sorry, this meeting's over. And but if you come back at noon, they're going to want to tell you something. So I came back at noon thinking, wow, they want to talk to me. This is really cool. I haven't had people that wanted to talk to me in a long time, man. So I came back to that noon meeting, and Don came up to me after that meeting. He goes, well, did you hear it? I said, hear what? And he said, oh, I'm sorry. It must have been a 5 o'clock meeting. So long story short, I went to the 8 o'clock meeting and the Hoodell meeting, and I kept coming back ever since. And Serenity Hall saved my life. The people at Serenity Hall saved my life. Don Ritter, who is now passed away, also saved my life. You know, and that's what Alcoholics Anonymous does selfishly. We help anybody, everybody, to help ourselves. And that's how this program has worked, right? I mean, I am so grateful that in the morning when we wake up, we get to read some kind of literature. We read at least, maybe 4 books, sections out of 4 books every day, because that's what it says we're supposed to do, Now, we're not really good at doing what we do all the time, but we're really trying. And because I need an everyday program. I'm not the kind of alcoholic that I can't go to the buffet and just pick what I want. I either get AA in its fullest effect, or I am a guy that goes back out. I got to have the whole program the way it's wrote out of the book, and the way I've learned from my sponsor, and the way I hear it in meetings. And you keep coming around here and you see the people who come in here and go back out, and some of them come back in and some of them don't. And that's the message I need to hear. That's the message I need to see. As sad as it is, I'm so grateful that I have a home group. I love my home group. It's a New Purpose group up in Renton Highlands. We meet on Thursday nights, 7 to 8:15. It's been our home group for 20 years now. You have to belong, and you need to find a place you belong, because otherwise you're out there alone. And I can't be alone in this thing. I got to be in the middle of the herd, as it said. I need to be a part of the program, because if I'm not a part of the program, I'm a problem to the program. I'm a problem to my family. I'm a problem to anybody that gets in my way as I'm driving my Oldsmobile Delta 88 down the road with chains and drunk. I was just gifted that night. By the grace of God. Something happened. I found my way here, not of my own doing. After I had gotten in trouble with that police officer in 1990 in December, I had been, after I got out of detox, I went down and I got an alcohol assessment. And that guy called me an alcoholic. Actually, he said, we think you might be an alcoholic. And we think that you should go get a bed over here wherever we can get one, as soon as we can get one. And so I had this problem. I went to this assessment, and then I had this other problem with this police officer, and they called me. They called me a couple weeks later. It was almost January. I think it was like January 10th or something like that. They called me and they said, "You're in luck. We have a bed for you over at Kitsap Community Recovery Center." And I said, "Gosh, I'm sorry, I'd like to go, but I got to go to court." Because I'm comfortable in court. I don't know what the hell treatment is. I don't know what this AA thing is. I've been to court. I know how to get through court. You get that public defender. They come in. They help you get out of the mess you're in. You pay a little money and you keep moving, right? I get out and start partying because that's what I always did. As soon as I got out of jail, I had to celebrate the fact that I got out of jail. Every morning I came to from a hard night's drinking, I had to celebrate the fact that I came to. And that was just how I lived my life. When I started drinking, I knew I was a good drinker. I didn't really want to hold back. You know, my heroes are dead. You know, my heroes in my life are like my older brother. My older brother was my hero from the get-go. He was one of those guys that was tall, broad-shouldered, could do anything athletic, had all the girls, and he was a party animal. And I loved him, and he took care of me all the time. This one time down at Findlay High School in Eastern Washington, there was some guys that wanted to take me down and cut my hair. It was a cowboy kind of school that I did not fit into. And my brother came down there because they said they were going to do this. And my brother came down there, and I don't know if y'all know who Peter Frampton is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I want you to vision Peter Frampton with this white cut-off sleeve shirt, and he comes in there and he parks along the side of the building, and he's hanging out, and he's smoking a cigarette on school grounds. He's got this wild Peter Frampton hair and his headband. He's just a crazy man. And he came up and he said, if you guys want to cut his hair, go ahead, but you got to cut mine first. I never got bothered again by that guy. And this is my brother, and I loved him. And unfortunately, I had to be the one of the two that had to make the decision to pull the plug on him, because he had drank himself into a corner where they said, if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die in 6 months. He quit drinking and died in 6 months anyway. Damage was done. He just couldn't get past that. And I had to be there to pull the plug on him. And I've also I have held my dad's hand when he passed away. I held my mom's hand when he passed away. And the reason I bring that up is because it really should have been the other way around. I was the mess. I was the trouble. Now, I was the one that was the family outcast. I was the one that was constantly in trouble, always asking for way more than I deserve. But in sobriety, I've got to hold these folks' hands as my family's hands that I loved so much, and they're not the only ones. I mean, I've got to, I don't want to bring that down. People die, right? In AA, out of AA, people just die. The message for me is that I get to be witness to be the fact that that's me if I don't do this program, because I'm not good at life out there, without this. I got to have this. My sponsor, he took me through those steps because I had to go through those steps. I had to learn the program the way it was wrote out and the way it is in the book. And he was very good about that. Now, am I a good sponsee? Oh, hell no. Am I a good sponsor? Hey, I raise my hand all the time. We're good at what we are, right? So there's certain people that are really good at service. I am good at service in a broad spectrum of I love people. And that's what I try to do, is I try to be helpful to my neighbor, because I've screwed everything up before I got here. I have to do this living amends as best I can. But my sponsor, he took me through these steps. He told me that, it's a do or die situation. It's that simple. You can either do this or don't, and you'll get the results. And then he took me to a lot of meetings, and he made me witness to it. I got to see that as it is. I remember when I was trying to do my 4th step with this guy. I know this is an old story for the ones that's heard it before, but I really, it was impactful, and it describes who I was and who my sponsor was at the time, and that was that I was supposed to do my steps. He'd went through the first and the second and the third, and he'd give me this fourth step to write out, and I was working on it as I was organizing my sock drawer. It was tough for me. I got a lot of records to pass. I didn't really want to own up to some of this stuff, and I sure in hell didn't want to write it down and let anybody read it. And so I fought that for a long time. And it'd been about, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months that I'd wallowing around in this 4-step. And he put me in a truck and he said, man, let's go out and have a talk. And he had one of those little 4x4 Nissan pickups with the bush guard and the big lights, whatever, So we took off and we went out in the weeds. And he started telling me about how important this 4-step is and what it is to do what I am supposed to do in this program. And he says that your freedom, and why wouldn't you want to do this? Why wouldn't you want to be free of all this resentment, all this madness, all this insanity? Why wouldn't you want to work at being free of that? And I didn't have a good answer for him. And he said, well, you're going to do your 4-step. As a matter of fact, would you reach in that glove box? Or he said, would you open up the glove box? And I did. And there was a gun in that glove box. Now, he wanted me to hand it to him after he just got through telling me about this 4-step that I was not doing. I thought for sure this guy was going to shoot me because I hadn't done my 4-step. I go, man, I knew you were crazy, Bill, but come on, man. I mean, let's not take this thing too far. Of course, he didn't. He wanted to just shoot rabbits, which I'm not a fan of either, but he got the point across, as sponsors have this way of doing, right? And so I stay sober today. I stay sober today through service. I try to reach my hand out wherever I can. And all this stuff that I've told you, the reasons I would go through the steps, the reasons I would put up with my sponsor, and the reasons that I make myself available. Why would I do that? And it's because if you refer back to the beginning of my story in 1990, that's where I was. That's my life. From 14 to 30 is when I sobered up. And I had a lot of wreckage in there. I tore a lot of people, a lot of things down. And that I feel like at this point, I don't feel like I can ever make full amends for all that stuff. So I really, really, really want to try to live doing a living amends. Hopefully I will catch up from that someday, Since the day I went into treatment on January 19th, 91, I have not drank or relapsed or anything since that day. That's not me bragging. Okay, I'm not better than anybody in this room. I'm just better than I was. It's very, very important for me to remember that, I'm available to go out and if I want to try to live on yesterday's spiritual experience, I'm doomed. If I don't wake up in the morning and I try to find my new way, I am doomed. So it's imperative for me to wake up, ask for intuitive thought and or direction. And if I don't, I can tell. Those days don't go so well when I try to take that will back over. So for me today, because the last story I'm going to tell you is the one that would describe a crazy alcoholic and the amount of insanity that it took to get where I got. And that is that on my 19th birthday, we had a big party for me because I'm 19. And so we had this big party, and we were drinking a drink. I was drinking a drink called Harvey Wallbangers. So that might give away part of the story, because we did this thing. We were downstairs, and there was a good friend of mine, and he says, "Well, here, squat down and come up, and I'll give you this supercharge off this joint, and you'll pass out and you'll fall back on this giant 6-foot pillow chair that we had." It's right there. I fell forward and I hit a pool table, and I went to a concrete floor, and I shattered my jaw. I hit so hard to put this top tooth through my bottom lip. And so 2 weeks after that happened, I had to go get my jaw rewired, put back together. And 2 weeks after that, I went back to the scene of the crime. And all of my buddies are up there, and they're drinking, and they're having a grand old time. And they handed me a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I took a drink. So I want to tell you about, have you ever seen the red elements on a heater when it's real hot? Okay, so I had these fresh wires going through my gums. And when I took that drink of Jack Daniels, all them open wounds that were in my mouth felt like those red coils on that heater. Now, what do? I'm sure as this crowd, I bet you guys, I bet you have the solution already, right? You drink more. I have to kill that pain. That's my logic. And I did. And I drank and I drank and I drank till I didn't feel anything. And then that was the information I got that carried me to the day I took my last drink. That kind of insanity is what took me to my last drink. So I'm going to read one thing, and I'm going to close this. I really want to wish everybody good holidays. I hope that if you're struggling, you talk to somebody. I hope if you're celebrating a birthday, congratulations. We don't have to be alone in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's just no reason for us to do this thing by ourselves. So if you're struggling and if you need help, reach out, because there's plenty of people with their hands out for you. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with somebody immediately and make amends quickly. If we have harmed anyone, then we'll resolutely turn our thoughts to someone who can help. Love, tolerance of others is our code. And I really, really, really believe that today, that I'm trying to be as loving as I can. Don't do it all the time. I'm trying to be understanding all the time. Don't always do it. But I stand a better chance of doing this stuff today than I ever have. So, and that's because of what the program has taught me, what I've heard in these meetings, what I've learned from all the people who have come from before and the people who are out here now. So I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for letting me share. Have a good night.